theater professor here at John Tyler, and I'm really delighted to be presenting this piece as part of our literary festival, which is a wonderful event. I'm really glad to have you guys here tonight. There are some other events with the literary festival as well, so I hope to see you at some of those in addition to this one. I'll just give you a little bit of background on this piece. What we're doing tonight is a staged reading, meaning that we're basically going to be reading the material, and we've staged it slightly, so people will be moving around a little bit, but we've still got scripts in our hands, so we aren't doing a full-out production. We don't have costumes, we don't have lights, we don't have sets, we don't have props. So in certain points, I'm going to be reading the stage directions so that you can kind of imagine for yourself what this would actually look like in a full production. The benefits of a staged reading are that the focus is really on the text, on the material being presented, so we don't have any other sort of production values going on. We're really just looking at the text and giving you guys a chance to hear those words and to hear them sort of brought to life a little bit by the actors that we have today. The folks we have today are all members of the theater club here at John Tyler, and some of them are playing multiple roles, so I'm going to introduce them quickly just so when you see them come up it might be a little less confusing. Chelsea is actually, Chelsea's doing, I think, triple or quadruple duty at this point, but Chelsea is most notably Sylvia Beach, the publisher. She's also a waitress, a barman, and at the very end, an old man and a priest also. But Chelsea's doing a lot. We also have Bridget. Bridget is playing Kitty, so just one role for Bridget. Chrissy is just playing Nora, so only one role for her. Right here is our James Joyce. Tom is playing James Joyce. Ray is playing both Buck Mulligan and Leopold Bloom, so he will be one or the other of those. And Jeffrey is playing Tim Finnegan and Stephen Dedalus. Okay, so I'll be reading some of the things in terms of Stephen enters or Leopold enters, so that it'll hopefully help you be able to follow what's going on. But we'll do our best to bring it to life and let you guys hear it. Afterwards, please do stick around for a little bit. We do have food. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on it. I know the playwright is very interested in that. So the playwright of this piece is John Joyce. He is the grandnephew of James Joyce. And Becky Bonkel, one of our faculty members, was on a study abroad trip to Ireland with a group of students, and she happened to meet him and got into conversation and ended up having the play and brought it back here and showed it to me, and it seemed like a great fit for the literary festival. So it's kind of neat. We've been, the playwright and I have Skyped a few times from Ireland, so I've been able to talk to him about the work, and it's been a really, really great experience, both for me and the students, I think, and hopefully for you as well. So a little bit of history about the play. We'll see what you guys think. Like I said, I'd really love to hear your thoughts afterwards. This is a play in development, so the playwright and I would both like to be interested in how you received it. Okay, so without further ado, I present Finnegans Awake by John Joyce. Scene 1, Resurrection. Lights up on the barman as James Joyce enters the pub.
Ah, James, welcome home. What brings you back to Dublin?
Mickey, a matter of grave literary importance, and the funeral of a colleague, Tim Finnegan. He died suddenly in an accident at the brewery.
A tragic accident indeed. A bad fall from that height, it was all over the papers.
I've just come from the graveyard, after receiving an urgent message from my publisher to meet him here.
How's Paris treating you then?
It's easy to be poor anywhere, Mickey, as long as it's not in Ireland. Besides, the weather's not too bad either.
What's your poison zone? By the way, this one's on me. Seeing as it's Lent, I'll make my contribution to the poor of Ireland.
Thank you, Mickey. In that case, make it a stout and a small Jameson, and you'll be shown twice the mercy.
Mulligan and the funeral mourners enter with Tim Finnegan sitting on their shoulders, back from the dead.
He's alive!
He's alive!
May the saints preserve us. I'm seeing a ghost. Are you not being buried today?
Are you sure you're not a ghost? 'Cause you look as white as a sheet, Mickey. Drinks all around, please. It's not every day a man gets to celebrate his resurrection.
What does a ghost drink when he's alive?
Do I look like a ghost to you, or is that your name, Thomas? Give us a Jameson to put the spirit back to me. A toast, gentlemen, to a long life. Slante.
Slante.
Well, if it isn't the bold Jamesy himself. What ails you here? Are the French too posh for ye? Whatever happened to that old book you were writing? That useless one.
It's a sad day for Ireland when the dead have to come back to life to preserve the country, Tim. Filling the shoes of exiles has always been Ireland's Achilles. Besides, there's nothing useless about books, Tim, if you're still allowed to read them.
True enough, Jamesy. But if you're dead or in exile, Ireland gives you the same burial either way.
In that case, Tim, I'll join you in your wakefulness. A double Jameson for me.
They toast.
Tell me, Finnegan, what will you do with the rest of your life now that you found it?
That's a very good question, James. I think I'll write my own autobiography, and I'll call it Finnegans Awake. I suppose I'll have more to write about now that I'm alive again.
That's true, lads. Finnegan's the only man alive to come back to life in 2,000 years. Give us a double there, too.
Ah, Mrs. Finnegan will be bitterly disappointed too, of course, when she finds out. There'll be the funeral cost she paid for and the plot in Glasvin Cemetery, not to mention the last will and testament, which has now become obsolete.
Well, that's a grave state of affairs for you, Tim.
You see, Buck, she always said I was good for nothing, and now it appears I've proved her right. The poor woman thought she was free from the marital chains that imprisoned her in this life.
It's a hard to kill a bad thing, lads.
Now here I am in this nightmare of wakefulness. I'll have to face twice her fury now that I'm still alive.
Nothing like a woman scorned, eh, lads? But twice over deserves another round of drinks. Mickey, another round here.
They pour and toast again.
That will make an interesting read from Finnegan, eh, James?
There's no novelty in our autobiographies, per se. But one written by a dead man is, first and foremost, uniquely first and uniquely novel in itself. It's bound to be a bestseller.
Ah, here, James. You've some gift with the gab. True enough, though, it's never been done before. I mean, for a man to write his own story after he was dead, where would you start with it?
There's been enough confusion in both life and death for me already, Buck, without adding more to it, if you get where I'm coming from.
Where you're coming from, no one wants to go. And where you're going, no one wants to come. You have us all locked in a mortal limbo. I need another drink. Mickey, drinks all around.
You were happy enough to celebrate my death at my expense. Now you're happy to celebrate me coming back to life at my expense. But don't charge me with your morality at the expense of the creation. Make mine a double.
Easy on there, Tim. You've only just come back to life. You don't want the same medicine that woke ye to be the death of ye.
I tried it once before, Buck, and look where it got me. Alive again, and in more trouble than when I was dead. Anyway, everything is still in place for now, and James here could finish my book if the whiskey does away with me.
In that case, Tim, what language would you like me to write it in?
Ah, James, you're such a show-off, really. Any language you like, as long as it's bad language. Here, finish up there, and we'll all go down to the palace bar, where they'll buy ye a decent drink, and everyone speaks my kind of language.
Here, here.
Yeah. Would you cut it that, Mickey? If my publisher, Leonard Wire, arrives, tell him I'll be at the palace bar, and I have an idea for a new book.
End of scene 1. Scene 2. 27 years later. Lights up on James finishing the final page of Finnegans Wake in his Zurich study late in the evening. Lights down. Lights up on James on the train to Paris. He reminisces about Tim Finnegan spouting the words of Finnegans Wake in a drunken stupor, giving him the idea for the book. Lights down. Lights up on James at Shakespeare and Company in Paris, where he meets with his publisher, Sylvia Beach.
James, it's so good to see you again.
Sylvia, indeed. It's been quite some time since our last meeting.
And how was your journey from Zurich?
Not half as long or frustrating as the new book I've just finished.
So you've been busy since we last met?
I've just finished the final draft yesterday, and I think it's by far the best writing I've done to date.
It would be hard to outdo Ulysses, but I've no doubt you're going to prove me wrong, James. What's the title?
Finnegans Wake. I got the name from a colleague who, strangely enough, had the same name as a song that my father used to sing.
You know what they say. There's nothing stranger than the intervention of fate itself to influence and inspire greatness. And what's the storyline?
Well, it's like a dream, really. Like a stream or flow of consciousness thought, where one thought leads into another, and so on, until the subject matter has completely deviated from the original thought, and thus continues out unbroken throughout the book.
It sounds like an interesting concept. Who's the main character?
Well, that would be the reader. The real inspiration was a man of unequivocal stature among his own, and the heart and soul of all that epitomizes Dublin life through and through.
So inspire me then, James.
Have you got 20 years to spare?
I have an hour before lunch, and I'm all yours.
Well, it all started when I arrived back in Dublin after my year of medical studies in the Sorbonne. I was working as a freelance journalist for a newspaper at the time, and I had just met my wife-to-be, Nora. Lights down. Scene 2A. Lovebirds. Lights up on a park. Nora is feeding the ducks, and James is taking a stroll. It's a fine day for the ducks. I dare say even St. Patrick himself would be proud of Ireland on such a day, if he were here to see it.
That's for sure. He left an everlasting stamp on both man and beast alike since he set foot on these green shamrock shores.
That's very true, but surely a foul twist of fate for the great pagans of Ireland, caught in the snare of their own slave trade and then recaptured from banishment by the same anointed vicar of Christ.
Is it a theologian you are then? If you're trying to convert me, I'll have to tell you you're too late. St. Patrick beat you to it by 1400 years.
Oh, no. I'm just a humble writer seeking his true vocation in the great oracle of life. I leave the preaching to the converted, and the converted to the preaching.
It takes an educated man to make a humble preacher.
Indeed. In my case, the Jesuits have a lot to answer for.
So you're a writer then?
Yes, I work for a national newspaper, and I'm currently writing a book. How about you? Haven't I seen you in Finn's hotel lately?
More than likely. I'm a chambermaid by day and a waitress in the evening. So tell me now, where would a dapper fellow like you, with his fancy hat and cane, find his true vocation in life anyway?
In Paris, or any other European city that calls for a good writer, or an English tutor.
So, do you speak French then?
Yes, quite fluently. I did a master's degree in languages at UCD. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm James Joyce, a self-imposed exile on temporary vacation in Dublin to sort out some business matters for a few months. And yourself?
Nora Barnacle, a self-imposed servile.
There's a marriage of isles right there for you, Nora. That's Ireland for you. From this isle and servile into exile.
I'd have to agree with you on that one. Even the poor ducks and birds here would find it hard to endure this country for too long. Though it shines like a jewel at times, even they have to take flight from the foul winters here.
To have the wings of a bird and take flight on a mere whim. That's not a Dublin accent I hear, though, is it?
You're the great language expert. Can you not guess? I'm from the West, from Galway. I moved here a year ago for work and service. And what about yourself?
Oh, I'm originally from Dublin, but I'm living in Paris. I'm staying with a friend, Oliver Gagarty in Sandy Cove at present, till I return to France. In actual fact, I had to meet him at Finn's hotel this evening. Will you be there?
I'm working till 6 in the tea room.
Damn, I have to work at the paper till 6:30 or so, then meet Gagarty. I had to finish a story, you see, about some street riots for the evening issue. But I should be free by 8 p.m. We could take in the sights of the city together. Would you like to join me?
I suppose it would be nice to get a bit of fresh air after being cooped up in the tea rooms all day. I could meet you at the Pillar at 8 tonight.
8 p.m. it is then. I'll be there on the dot.
I have to go now. I start work at 12 today and I'm already late.
I'll look forward to it.
End of scene 2. Scene 3, the Palace Bar. Mulligan has just been released from the Bridewell police station where Finnegan is being detained. He meets James Joyce in the Palace Bar.
Where would I find Buck Mulligan?
That's him over there by the window with the cap on.
Buck Mulligan, I take it. I'm James Joyce from a national newspaper. I'd like to get your side of the story from the riots this morning at College Green.
How did you find out I was here?
As a journalist, good news travels fast. Bad news even faster.
Are you saying I'm bad news?
No news is bad news. The important thing is to unveil the truth. So, what happened at College Green this morning?
Crikey, James. They say the drink never lies. I can murder a pint. You've got to get me out of this situation.
You're in enough trouble already without bringing murder into it. Barman, a pint for Mulligan and a Jameson for myself.
A figure of speech, James.
Let's start from the top, shall we? What are they charging you with, the fray?
It's worse than that. A subversive. I'm being charged with membership of the Finnegans.
A subversive? I see, that's very serious.
I mean, who's the original? Me a subversive under the subversiveness of the subversives?
I need to clarify. Are you a member then?
Are you having me on, James? Look, I've got the shakes. Sure, I couldn't take orders in my state. Not military orders, nor holy orders, not even last orders. Sure, they'd have to call the local force just to extract me from the bar at closing time.
Then what happened exactly?
It started peacefully enough. Myself and Finnegan, O'Toole, and a few others joined the protest from Guinness's brewery after the lockout.
Who's Finnegan?
Me good friend and drinking associate from the brewery.
Proceed.
We did proceed.
I mean, with your story. You can confide in me, and I promise I won't tell a soul.
Grand so. As we marched up the quays, some Fenians infiltrated our ranks in order to stir up trouble with the local constabulary.
Is Finnegan a member, then?
No way. He's a handyman at the brewery. Just like me, when he's not working, he's busy drinking.
So, who are they, then?
You wouldn't understand, James. No offense, but you need to be a nationalist and all that.
I may not be a nationalist, and I may be an atheist, but I have no sympathy for the devil. He comes in many guises, you know. Continue.
Anyway, we got as far as College Green when all hell broke loose between our front line and some horse cavalry.
Had you a full view, then?
We were in the middle roundabouts. We were surrounded at that point when the young soldier was killed. Arrests were swiftly made and the charges subsequently issued, and so that's how we ended up in the Bridewell.
Look, Mulligan, I have a work colleague and a good friend who is the legal eagle for our paper. Stephen Dedalus is as good as any solicitor, and he'll get you out of this in a jiffy. I'll see what I can do.
Faster than that won't be quick enough. Ask him if he's anything for the shakes while you're at it, will you? Look at me. I can't keep my hands steady for a split second.
Where is Finnegan, by the way?
He's been detained for further questioning. He's in a grave predicament, though.
As long as it's a predicament and not a grave, that's the main thing. You know, Mulligan?
If you don't get us out of this quick, we'll both end up in a grave, with nothing but our bones rattling round in a wooden box. Saints preserve us.
Now calm down. A period of sobriety was never known to be life-threatening to any man.
I'm a different kettle of fish, Bloom. Sobriety in me is like night and day, chalk and cheese. Life and death, even. Ask Finnegan when you see him.
Once I get my story back to the editor, you and Finnegan can re-establish your association with life in the public houses of Dublin in due course.
I'll drink to that, James. And while you're at it, make it a double, Jameson. Double quick before the worms start to gnaw at me.
I'll see what I can do on both counts. Barman, a double for my good friends here.
End of scene 3. Scene 4, the press office. Lights up on the newspaper office in Dublin. Leopold Bloom and Stephen Dedalus are busy working, trying to get the evening issue to print.
This one's a go. Send it down to print on page 3.
There's news of a fire broken out in Boland's Mills.
Get someone down there straight away before the flour settles. Stephen, boy, have you finished the column for page 36 yet?
Nearly there. Just waiting for the final judgment from the High Court at 2 p.m.
The courts. God grant us justice, the final judgment. Like the last day, neither legal nor lawful. Where will you be with your big wigs on that day? I can see the headlines now. High Court judge sentenced to all eternity for lack of judgment. All reporters saved. Now that's what I call justice.
James enters puffing from the climb up the stairs.
Holy Moses, James. You'd think you just run up Nelson's column by the breath of ye.
Nelson doesn't have a deadline with the evening issue. Just 166 steps and a free view of Dublin.
This paper will be the death of ye, James. I can see your obituary now. Journalist James Joyce met his Waterloo on the steps of his newspaper office today.
Finality comes to us all. Better it come with your guardian by your side than like a thief in the night. I pray you won't be denied the surety of that luxury, Stephen. I've just come from Bridewell, where a number of our fellow townsmen have been incarcerated under the false charge of subversion and membership of the Finnegans. Oh, and a young soldier was killed in the ensuing riot.
I can always rely on you, James, to come up with trumps with the corker when needed. Write it up and we'll print it on the front page for evening issue. Who have they arrested, by the way?
I interviewed a Buck Mulligan at the Palace Bar, and there's another fellow called Tim Finnegan still in the Bridewell for a start, and a few more from Guinness Brewery.
Ah, Finnegan. I should have known. In the thick of it again, and his right-hand man, Buck Mulligan. Two comrades in arms.
That's a joke, Bloom. More like elbows. A pair of Siamese twins sat in the palace bar. Where one goes, the other follows.
Very good, Dedalus. You should write that up, but use swallows. Where do you get a name like Buck Mulligan anyway? They caught Buck Mulligan when he was full again. Like Tim Finnegan sinking the gin again, more like. I ask you, where is their grey matter? Stewing at the bottom of Guinness vat?
So you know it then. It's a very precocious predicament for both of them. Like leaves shaken in the wind with fear.
A crown of fear to be worn by all self-declared Irishmen. The constabulary won't go light with the guilty parties.
It's not the crown they fear, rather the thought of everlasting sobriety, from what I gather. It's enough to make any man in their condition sign the most damning confession for their freedom and a cure for the shakes. I thought maybe Stephen could help.
A pair of useless sots, the pair of them, besotted with their own misfortune. Stephen, attention Stephen Dedalus, your assistance is required imminently.
How can I be of assistance, Your Honor?
His Majesty here has just come from the Bridewell, where Finnegan is being detained. Mulligan is free, but they need legal assistance.
Right upstairs, the pair of them. Trouble following trouble, right to the front door of the Four Courts.
Will you go down to the Bridewell and shake your wig about a bit, and see if you can get them off on some lesser charge? Drunk and disorderly would sound more appropriate.
Consider it done, Bloom. I'll get on it straight away.
Are you certain you'll be able to secure their release?
You can count on it, James. I'll sign in Aphrodite to that effect right now for fear of being in contempt of court.
They'll be eternally grateful for it, I'm sure.
Oh, and by the way, Stephen, they sound like they're in need of a cure A Nagano Jameson wouldn't go amiss to sell the nerves of these two ragamuffins about to be unleashed on unsuspecting public.
Here, here, Your Honor. Jameson all the way.
I'll follow you, Stephen, just as soon as I catch my breath. I need to interview Finnegan anyway.
Before you go, James,
He pulls out a brown envelope and slips a 20-pound note into it.
if all else fails, ask for Sergeant Connolly. Tell him you work for me. He's always open to a bit of friendly persuasion.
He hands James the envelope.
Judging by the gravity of the charges, it's probably their only bet.
Come on, James. Dublin and the courts won't hold their breath.
Coming, Stephen.
End of scene 4. Scene 5. A job for Kitty. Lights up on a street in Dublin city centre. James and Nora are taking a stroll.
There's nothing like Dublin on a sunny Sunday, Nora. Especially when I can spend it with you on your day off.
And I couldn't think of a better way to spend my day off than with you, James.
I'm so glad we met. Thank God for the ducks.
Let's walk up to the green now then, and we can feed them together for old time's sake.
As they walk off arm in arm, Tim Finnegan spots James across the street.
James! I thought it was you. I'm glad I've caught up with you at last. Oh, and this is Kitty, my wife.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Kitty.
She's a pretty one. You won't catch anything like that down in Monto.
You might catch a lot more, though, and that would be pretty unfortunate.
Talking about fortune, I've been meaning to thank you for your help in getting me and Mulligan off those charges last month.
Think nothing of it. It's all in a day's work for me.
James, myself and Kitty are going to take a look in the shoe shop and give you men a chance to have a chat.
That's fine, ladies. We'll still be here, no doubt, when you're finished. They seem to have hit it off on the right foot.
You know what women are like for the gossip, and where there are shoes involved, it's always the right foot. Seriously, though, how'd you manage to get the charges quashed so quickly?
It helps if you have contacts and a bit of the old friendly persuasion.
So, do you know a few big shots in the Bridewell police station, then?
Let's just say my colleagues down the paper now call it the Bridewell police station.
The Bridewell. That's one for the books, James. Wait until Mulligan hears that one.
It's better to keep that sort of thing out of the books for all our sakes. Have some bit on fortune smiling twice at us.
Speaking of which, let's see if me luck's still in. While the women are getting to know each other, that is.
He nods towards the bookies across the road.
They'll be hell to pay for it if they get back and find we're not here.
Trust me, they won't even know we're gone.
They cross the road towards the bookies. Lights up on Nora and Kitty in the shoe shop.
There's a gorgeous pair there, Kitty. God forgive me, Kitty, but there's a month's wages in them.
It's well for you, Noah, that you have a wage to worry about. Those shoes would feed my lot for the next 2 months, especially with Tim out of work with the lockout.
You know, Kitty, it's always down to the women to solve the problems when the hard times come.
That's true, Noah. They starve if it wasn't for us. If I wasn't cleaning Father Shine's house every morning, there wouldn't be a loaf of bread on the table. I'm not complaining, but it's a lot of hard work for little.
They're always looking for chambermaids in Finn's hotel where I work. I'm sure if I put in a good word, I could persuade them to give you a try.
Oh, Noah, that would be an answer to my prayers if you could. The other ones will take bigger miracles like Tim with the drink.
Men, they're all the same, Kitty. We just have to do our best with them. What they don't know won't hurt them. I think I'll take them even if I have to starve for a month.
If I get this job at Flynn's, you can count yourself a welcome guest at Kitty Finnegans' table for as long as you like, Noah. Besides, you know what they say. If the shoe fits, wear it.
At this purse, Kitty, I might have to wear them one at a time.
We better get back before we have the whole shop out. And also, make sure my Tim's not encouraging you, James, into some sort of development.
Lights down as they go to pay. Lights up on Tim and James. James is waiting outside for Finnegan as he emerges from the bookies.
That's the first winner today, with another 2 guaranteed on the way.
Prudence was never a virtue of the working classes. Besides, the only guarantee in this life, Tim, is death.
You can't beat the luck of the Irish, James. Sure, I didn't pray to St. Jude at Mass this morning for a little bit of financial assistance.
I don't think the saints abuse grace in that fashion. Besides, there's always some poor soul waiting in the wings to benefit from someone else's fortune.
The Lord loves a trier. Besides, I'm not like Mulligan. Oh, no. I'm a family man first, and the lectures can wait. Now, where have those women gotten to now?
Well, you were right about them not missing us. Ah, here they are now. A few pounds lighter by the look of the smiles on their faces.
Kitty can only lose a few pounds the right way. It might bring a smile to my face, James.
Ladies, I see success written all over your faces.
And yours by the look of the dockets.
Well, myself and James tried our luck while we were waiting on ye.
Well, how much did you lose this time?
Ah, Kitty, don't worry about that now. Tell them the good news.
Nora here said she gave me a job in the hotel where she's working.
That's fantastic. That's great news. This calls for a celebration.
Well, there's nothing certain yet, but I think I can arrange it with the manager.
All the same, I think we should celebrate. Hey, James?
Let's just say I won't renege on your good fortune.
That settles it then. Let's go to the Bogia and catch up with Mulligan.
This one's on you, Tim. After all, I'll be the one putting bread on the table from now on.
That's fair enough with me, Kitty, me little darling.
Don't you little darling me, Tim Finnegans. That's all you're getting from me, and mark my words.
Can't win 'em all, but what a day all the same, James. Like I said, good old St. Jude. I knew he'd pull through for me.
End of scene 5. Scene 6, old friends. Lights up on the Bodega pub. Joyce and Bloom are having a conversation.
Money is the bane of all humanity, Leo. It's either the lack of it or the glut of it that causes all the problems in this world.
I've never known a rich man that didn't have to rise early in the morning for the eternal slog and retire late at night just to maintain his financial status.
Nor a poor man who had to do the same to maintain his non-financial status. That's the great paradox of life. It's not the physical effort that clarifies a man's financial or social status in life, but rather the sum of his effort.
That sums it quite aptly, Jimmy. Ireland appears to be the sum total of both, with nothing in between, I might add.
A paradoxical enigma in itself. The rich being supported by the poor, and the poor not being supported by the rich. Better we weren't born at all than to have the millstone of Ireland tied around our necks and be cast into the depths of the Irish Sea, Leo.
Born into caste or cast into exile, either way. Ireland is the bane of the Irish.
Would you look who approaches as we speak? The two paradoxical enigmas of Dublin life. A complete walking contradiction, the pair of them.
Bloom exits as Finnegan and Mulligan approach.
What's left of the working populace of Ireland? A pair of toppers, both of them. Ill cast in top class and top heavy unsurpassed. Finnegan and Mulligan, dressed up in full again. Gentlemen, a little worse for the wear, I take it.
A little worse for luck, more like.
Only Ireland can make a man worse for luck, and luck.
It's lucky he who escapes then.
That depends on whose luck one depends.
Finnegan's luck in the 340.
Look, I had a winner in the Queen Victoria Stakes at Antry. Carry boy, a 33 to 1 rank outsider. Romped home he did.
Lucky for us he did, and we down on our luck and about to run dry in the Palace Bar. Then, suddenly fortune and Carry boy shined on us to the tune of 33 pounds.
A fair sum for someone who's usually so financially destitute.
Almost a month's wages down on the nose for early retirement in return. A fair coat for any man.
I meant the wager, not the return.
The shock of both nearly killed him.
You'd have plenty of newfound acquaintances and relatives should the shock have done so, no doubt.
Well, you know what they say. Where there's a will, there's relatives coming out of the woodwork like termites that haven't eaten for years.
It's fortunate for some, so, who share the spoils of fortune or misfortune, depending on which way you look at it.
The only fortunate thing a man gets out of death is his own finality, Tim, and that's for sure.
Anyway, there we were, stuck in our own finality, and not a brass farthing or the price of a print between us. When in romped Carry boy, so there I stood in total disbelief, and me whole body in mortal shock.
And so, unable to communicate in any fashion with his surroundings, he ordered a double Jameson. The barman asked him if he liked anything in it, and in his shock he said yes, a double whiskey.
Of course, the barman meant water, and I suppose in Gaelic terms I got it half right. Whiska being the half of the double.
But you already had a double.
No, I meant whiskbaith. It means water of health or water of life, like. The Jews wouldn't understand that.
It certainly brought the life back into him. After all, he's been through with the lockout at the brewery and all the rest.
So you kindly helped him loosen his tongue and his purse strings at the same time.
Sure, that's what friends are for.
That's right, Buck. Better to share a man's fortune while he's alive, rather than his misfortune when he's dead. That way there's no arguments, especially when there's money involved.
You can lock a man out, but you can't lock his mouth or his friends out, especially when it comes to drink.
Suffice to say, I helped him unburden the shock like a true friend. I mean, that sort of excitement unshared could kill a man in his state of health. The whiskey's been the death of many a man.
It's funny how the spirit of revitalization lies with some men.
True enough, James. Take Finnegan here. Perish the thought if he passed away. The mere sniff of the old Jameson would surely bring him back to life.
Here, here, Buck, me boy. Now, gentlemen, would you like to care to join us for a round to celebrate the luck of the Irish?
Why not, Finnegan? We'll have one for Kerry Boy and the luck of the Irish.
End of scene 6. Scene 7, St. Patrick's Day. Lights up on Stephen and Bloom at the Oval Bar, and Kitty and Nora in the snug.
You know, Leo, we must be the only nation that celebrates its own national day outside the national boundaries of its own perimeters.
There have been more poor souls on earth beyond the pale of Ireland than warrants a national celebration behind its own self-imprisoned perimeters, Stephen. What desire to be Irish, then, if it wallows in its own ingratitude for its own sons, born hard through the pains of its own labor, to give birth to its own state, and then leave nothing for its own nation except poverty and hardship?
It's a good thing, so, for Ireland, that James celebrates for all of us in his own grand fashion on an even grander foreign shore.
The culture of Ireland, Stephen, gives birth in grand fashion in foreign nations that hold it to their bosoms, and suckle and nurture it more so and moreover than Ireland ever held, except contempt for its own.
Oh, speak of the devil, and he'll hold you in contempt.
Speak of culture, Stephen, and you'll find all the contempt you need in James.
That's true. When the Jesuits act, they act in extremes. James is proof of that.
Truth be known, Stephen, I can't decide whether James is being a fool in his cleverness, or just plain clever in his foolishness.
He's like his father, so, a chip off the old block, a conundrum of mixed confusion.
It seems he has his father's taste in women, too.
Lights down on the men, lights up on Nora and Kitty.
Here, I'll get this one. Do you know what, Kitty? It's good to have a little drop to take the edge off the day. Barman, 2 gin and tonics, please.
Thanks. I don't usually start so early myself, Nora. Tim does enough for the both of us.
How's the new job going for you?
Grand. Sure, if I need a break, I get Betty Dooley to look after things while I nip in for a little one.
And how's your Tim anyhow?
You think he had a care in the world, Nora, between lockouts and strikes? He's all the time in the world to spend drinking with that lot from the brewery. True is, Nora, he is so busy with them, you find it hard to find any time to work. My heart is broken trying to look after him and the rest, and that's after doing a day's work before noon and Flynn's.
There, Kitty. Don't be so hard on yourself. Have another little one. You'll feel better.
Thanks, Nora. I'll have a large port this time. I mean, I didn't sign up for this sort of life. Struggling hand to mouth day in, day out, till death do us part.
2 large ports when you're ready. I know what you mean, Kitty. They don't put that line in the marriage vows, for better or for worse. Sure, that covers it all.
True enough, Nora. Men, they'll use the vows to keep you in line and work your fingers to the bone, then blame you for the situation when it all goes wrong. Really, all they're looking for is an excuse to go drinking or take a trip to Monty when it suits them. Here, Nora, get another round there, and I'll pay.
No, Kitty. You hold on to a little you've got for now. Another round there, please. Are you saying Tim's been off with other women down in Monto?
Faith no dicey. He'd be too drunk night a day to look after any woman. He'd have to sew up for a month just to relieve himself. Sure, he's no fam at all.
God, Kitty, you were never one to mince your words.
I know what I like to mince, and a certain person comes to mind.
Lights down on the women and lights up on Bloom, Stephen, and James.
The ladies seem to be enjoying themselves. Barman, another round here, and what's it for you, James?
A stout and a small one, please, Leo.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, James.
Let the saints preserve their own happiness, and I'll preserve mine. Here's to life in Europe.
So, how long do we have to accommodate the grace of your presence this time, James?
Presently, and for the grace of Ireland, just a couple of months. Certain pressing literary matters delay my exodus, and there's also the winding down of the Volta cinema to sort out, and of course my new acquaintance in the snug with Kitty.
Aha! You see, Stephen? He's like his father. A chip off the old block, just as you say. Never let it be said that the Joyces didn't play their part in the grand cycle of life, with their contribution to the procreation of the future generations of mankind. A toast to the future of mankind, to posterity.
And what's the name of this lovely fledgling with which you intend to set up a nest with in Triste?
Her name is Nora, Leo. Nora Barnacle from Galley.
Ha! That name sounds like a painful disease, James. With a name like that, you'll never be rid of her, that's for sure. Well, good luck to you and Miss Barnacle. Barnacle's up.
Lights down on the men, lights back up on the women.
Kitty, you're awful. Men, you can't live with them, and they can't live without us. Sure, who wants to be married to one?
You're the lucky one. Free and easy. Mind you, that James fella's a nice catch. He's not like my Tim, coming look for his contrary rights when he's half cut or in a bad humor.
God, when you paint it like that, Kitty, it sounds like a jail sentence. James is no saint either. I can tell you, he can drink for Ireland when he wants to.
What they won't do for a drink and a bit of the other. Well, you know what I mean.
Ah, Kitty, as if. Sure, haven't I got the best of both worlds? James is a fine young man, though. He looks after my every whim, and I got my freedom at the same time.
Oh, no, you're a gas. You make it sound like the weather. Easy come, easy go, like, here, let me get another one, Buzz.
I'll have a gin and tonic water this time. Thanks, Kitty. Tell me, do yourself and Tim still, well, you know.
Barman, 2 gin and tonics when you're ready. Sure haven't we had enough to deal with bringing up to 6 without adding to the hardship? Even if Tim was so enough to behave as a proper husband, sure I'd be too tired most of the time anyway.
Well, I don't know what I'd do if I had to live like that, without the touch of a man and all the rest. That would drive anyone to drink.
If it ever got to that stage, I could always lend you my Tim to go drinking with. Here, have another one. Barman, the same again. At least I know who he's been with and where to find him in an emergency.
There's no emergencies here, Kitty. At least not yet. But if the situation changes, I'll let you know.
That'd be a turn up for the books, Noah. The first madam in Ireland to win out her husband.
In that case, Kitty, have a large one on me. Consider it a down payment.
It'd take a lot more where that come from, considering the large ones on Tim. Make mine a double, Noah.
End of scene 7. Scene 8, Shenanigans. Lights up on Mulligan's pub. The barman serves drinks to Finnegan, Mulligan, and James.
Oh, Danny boy, the lights are calling. What about that, lads? You have a fair voice on you, Tim. As good as any man in the land, and as fair as any land has ever seen.
That's true, Tim. A match for any of the great tenors today. I dare say even McCormick himself would say so, and he's an arid fees winner.
If my memory serves me right, didn't James here enter the arid fees himself at the Crystal Ballrooms and won 2nd place? Am I right, James?
Indeed I did, Tim. It was McCormick who encouraged me, having heard me singing at the gala night.
Tell us the story, James.
Well, it came down to the final round, and I didn't like sight reading the unpracticed second air I was to perform, and so I refused to take the podium. I was informed that I had done so, that had I done so, I would have secured the gold medal position. Pride got the better of me, and I declined. The rest is history.
Just as well for them so that you weren't in it, Tim. It might have been a different story. Tim Finnegan, top tenor, takes first prize on world stage. You could write that one up, James.
How about outstanding performance from the new Irish tenor, Tim Finnegan, takes world stage by storm.
I can't imagine your name in lights under any heading other than drunkard, gambler, womanizer, and or general dog spot.
You can put me under any heading you like, Mulligan, except in the obituaries column. Besides, what's life worth if a man doesn't use his talents and take his God-given path in life? Round, please.
We all have the talents given to us at birth and our genetic makeup for success in life. Take any man and I'll show you a genius, or take any genius and I'll show you a man.
There you go, Tim. We're all geniuses of our own making. I'll drink to that.
Yes, but genius has to be recognized. Some people would call it synchronicity, fate, or chance, or a combination of happenings around at a certain axis or point in life. A catalyst would be a good example.
You mean like the Pope?
I suppose you could use it as an example, though. Say Tim here attended the Jesuits as a boy and was encouraged to join the order. This in turn led him on to become a parish priest, then bishop, then cardinal, and finally to be elected pope. Each event revolving around other events, which in turn revolve around other further events. But none being possible without Tim being central to the whole plot.
You mean like a magnet?
Precisely, Buck. A magnetic personality.
Bloody hell, Tim, that describes you to a T.
I know exactly what you mean. Look at what I've attached to in my life. Drinkers, scoundrels, gamblers, and every other manner of riffraff with no manners between the lot of them. God help the Catholic Church on earth should it rely on my election by such a conclave of twisted humanity.
They say there's no smoke without fire. You're also the product of your own invention, even intention.
If that's the case, James, the earth will plume back with smoke and brimstone and coat mankind in the volcanic ash of his own depravity.
That sounds like a good epitaph, Tim. Consumed in the ash of his own depravity.
I'll drink to that. A toast, gentlemen.
This calls for a speech. Speech.
There's no room for speeches in this life, due to the shortness of its longevity.
In that case, we'll settle for a song. Follow me, lads.
Oh, Daddy boy, the lights are calling.
They exit singing. End of scene 8. Scene 9. Elopement. Lights up on the step of Finn's hotel. James is waiting outside the hotel for Nora to finish work.
Why, Nora, whatever's the matter?
Oh, James, I can't take any more of this daily humiliation.